Hello, Anian. Anian actually represents hello in Ojibwe language, but it actually means I see your light, and I thought it was really beautiful. Welcome to my presentation exploring Indigenous technology. My name is aleenakhan. I live in Markham, and the city of Markham acknowledges that it is situated on the traditional territories of Indigenous people and their commitment to stewardship of the land. We acknowledge the communities encircled the north, west, south, and eastern directions, and Haudenosaunee, Huron-Wendat, Anishinaabeg, Seneca, Chippewa, and the current treaty holders, Mississaugas of the Credit people. According to Beatty's 1998, Aboriginal languages are sacred to Aboriginal people. As a practicing Muslim, I regard languages as sacred too, which is one reason I chose to engage with these apps to learn about the Ojibwe language, which has suffered immensely under colonialism. These apps created by Indigenous people are a means to revive and preserve their language. For this assignment, I chose two mobile applications as my preferred technology for learning the Ojibwe language. The first is Ojibwe Learning, and the second is Ojibwe Learning Game. These apps teach Ojibwe language, word, small everyday phrases and greetings. There are options to practice in way of gamification. Both the apps are free and offer most of the language learning features offline. According to Assembly of First Nations 2023, 118 of First Nations communities have no reliable internet, which makes free apps and offline features a cost-effective option for Indigenous people facing digital divide. Um, and non-Indigenous people as well who wish to learn the language and engage with these apps. Some other reasons to choose these apps are accessibility. These apps can be downloaded on any phone. They encourage self-paced learning. Learners can learn and practice the language on their own pace and time. Both these apps have interactive and engaging features, especially the Ojibwe language learning game, which enhance active learning and retention and make it fun to learn a new language. Different levels, rewards, unlocking badges, all these features make learning process more fun and enjoyable for all ages. When you click on the video on
Anin,
this slide, you can see a demonstration of
Indigenous,
how these apps actually work.
Miigwech,
As an immigrant and an English language
Anin,
learner, I found the interface of these apps and the
Indigenous,
accessibility feature quite helpful.
Miigwech,
Easy to understand, and
Anin,
English is used for the instruction delivery, which makes it
Indigenous,
convenient for a person who is
Miigwech,
exploring Ojibwe language first time or have very
Anin,
little grasp of the language. The audio
Indigenous,
pronunciations are recorded by
Miigwech,
native Ojibwe speakers. Hearing native
Anin,
speakers pronounce words and phrases was
Indigenous,
invaluable. It helped me understand the correct
Miigwech,
pronunciation and intonation.
Anin,
Um, on
Indigenous,
the next slide, you can see some
Miigwech,
screenshots of how these apps have included
Anin,
cultural insights. Both apps have
Indigenous,
extra resources as community forums
Miigwech,
and social features where learner could connect and
Anin,
find authentic information about
Indigenous,
First Nation communities.
Miigwech,
One challenge that I faced in both apps was
Anin,
the lack of Thai pronunciation. I wish the
Indigenous,
pronunciation of each word was written out
Miigwech,
as I found it challenging to replicate
Anin,
the recorded sounds of words and phrases.
Indigenous,
This could be very subjective
Miigwech,
because it was my first
Anin,
experience engaging with Ojibwe
Indigenous,
language, and I haven't
Miigwech,
really heard it a lot before.
Anin,
According to Batiste
Indigenous,
1998, Aboriginal parents and
Miigwech,
children have to permanently defend their
Anin,
linguistic and cultural integrity. And that is
Indigenous,
why creation of all
Miigwech,
these apps and
Anin,
technology is much more important. And I
Indigenous,
could kind of imagine the work process and
Miigwech,
effort that would have gone into creating
Anin,
technological resources, such as these ones, to keep the language and
Indigenous,
heritage alive. Generally
Miigwech,
engaging with these apps have
Anin,
opened doors of understanding and appreciating a
Indigenous,
vital part of Canadian culture.
Miigwech,
On this slide, you can see some screenshots of the apps. The middle ones are the gaming app, Ojibwe gaming app, and on both sides, the screenshots of Ojibwe learning app. On the right side, you can see that the app Ojibwe learning app has included some extra resources um, for cultural resurgence. These apps are designed to be classroom friendly, making them suitable for use in schools as a means of indigenization within the decolonization process. Kajat 2000 says finding your face implies connecting with who you are, where you come from, and discovering your unique sense of self. Finding your heart refers to finding your vocation. That is something you could do with passion that would also allow you to contribute to the life and survival of the community. I see this code as um, finding your sense of belonging within your own land and community. From what I understood, is that finding your face in these language, in terms of these language revitalizing apps, your own people, native people, Ojibwe people recording in their language, foster connection with Ojibwe identity, heritage, and discovering the unique sense of self-worth through language. And finding your heart means discovering a passion for the learning that not only fulfills you personally, but also contributes to the life and preservation of Ojibwe community. And in terms of technology, because this generation and the coming generation is going to learn mostly from technology. Poetess Pratt et al. Says decolonization is about the disruption of colonial power structures by calling attention to them and dismantling them in ways small and large. These language revitalization apps are a means of dismantling colonial narratives as they are prioritizing the indigenous ways of knowing and doing. An app can be a small but a very powerful way to do so. Um, Godray says in the article that Western approaches to knowledge production will need to be pushed back, while indigenous approaches to knowledge productions are simultaneously being strengthened in the center. The goal is to enable indigenous worldviews to take up more space throughout the entire academy. Um, Western approaches of people can be pushed back, and indigenous approaches to be can be strengthened by integrating indigenous language revitalization programs within universities and educational settings, by incorporating language apps focused on indigenous language like Ojibwe. um, they're embedding indigenous ways of knowing and cultural perspective into the academic environment. As mentioned by Sasa Kimus and Pete, scholars see indigenization as a transformative process, and by incorporating language learning apps, it seeks to create more inclusive spaces that recognize and value diverse knowledge systems beyond the historically prioritized. According to Megan 2021, Indigenous people decolonizing the digital landscape are breaking habits of algorithmic linguistic and technological colonization. And the digital landscape continues to be decolonized with the efforts of Indigenous people and allies. The article also mentions that Western linguists might consider some indigenous languages as under-resourced because they lack textual speech data or standardized forms. However, Bird 2020 criticizes this way as a colonizing frame, suggesting it assumes that major Western languages set the standard and that indigenous languages require the same technologies. And that is why these advanced indigenous technologies and learning environments that have been implemented and created by and for indigenous people are a way of indigenous people using technology to respond to settler colonialism. Both the apps that I have explored for this assignment, the Ojibwe Learning app and Ojibwe Gaming app, have been created with the purpose to have resource available for First Nation families and children. The Ojibwe Learning app is created by indigenous own full service language app company called Ogoki Learning. Was founded on the principles of revitalizing and preserving the world's oldest language using modern technology that is user friendly and classroom friendly. The Ojibwe Gaming app is created by AKRC, which is an Aboriginal nonprofit organization with the principle of bringing back the Anishinaabe language, culture, and tradition. For this organization, the board of members are the chiefs of First Five Nations. So I think both these apps are a way towards decolonization. An immersion classroom wherein the children and teacher co-construct content grounded in context, and the development of curriculum that emerges authentically from indigenous knowledge are offered as examples of indigenous ways of knowing underpinning and enhancing students' preparation of the future. These apps are the resources created by indigenous communities to challenge colonial teaching methods and disrupt Western learning approaches. Integrating indigenous knowledge such as the language in the school curriculum and like this quote that is shared suggests the co-creating content with teachers and indigenous families. These apps can be used as an extra support to and immersing in classrooms where children and educators collaboratively develop curriculum grounded in context and authentically rooted in indigenous knowledge, enhancing students' connection with the language. The same article also mentioned indigenous knowledges as seen in these contexts are not stagnant or ancient. Technology is today's way of learning and future's way of learning. There is very little concept left of learning without the use of technology, and when indigenous knowledge is integrated within the latest technologies such as mobiles app, it is a way of responding to settler colonialism because providing free and accessible means of language revitalizing programs and apps, it's like providing a real-time learning and educational integration. Baptiste, 1998, writes linguistic competence is a requisite for the renewal and respect of Aboriginal knowledge and humanity. Aboriginal people cannot rely on colonial languages and thought defined in provincial curriculum to shape our reality. Relying on colonial languages and providing curriculum enhances and perpetuates Western views and undermines indigenous realities. Indigenous language not only unlock knowledge but also offer a holistic process for restoration, healing, and learning about the land within the land, respect about land and respect about the language. Reconstructing knowledge from within indigenous communities and their language is crucial for bringing back the language. The same article also says that how can they reconstruct their knowledge without their language in their communities? If the indigenous children they do not know their language, how the knowledge can be spread across? I mean, in an effort to bringing back the Ojibwe language and teaching Ojibwe language or Ojibwe ways of living and doing in Western language would be an irony, and that is why I think these apps, with the purpose of teaching language, preserving language are a way to respond settler colonialism. They're also telling their true stories, authentic stories, and asserting their cultural sovereignty through these apps. To conclude, I'd like to share this quote by Carpenter et al. 2017 that says indigenous communities have been long engaged in the process of ensuring that technology platforms reflect and respond to their traditional ways, cultures, and languages. Even though Canadian educational policies, especially at the postgraduate level, are far from decolonizing education, but Indigenous people are doing hard work and putting in effort to indigenize education. As mentioned by Dr. Watson in one of the sessions, that indigenization is primarily the work of Indigenous people, such as these apps created by Indigenous communities aiming to serve and preserve their language and heritage. But decolonization is a collective responsibility. It is for everyone, and it is up to all of us to mindfully engage with these efforts and do our part in doing so. All references are provided on this slide and the next. Thank you for listening. Bye.